The actions of the President of the United States have the leader of Russia, Putin, that guy, having a party, giddy. And in this breaking story, you're going to find out why, because of what the Russian media is jumping up and down about because of Donald Trump. And those who voted for Trump, history is not going to shine well on how in the world you could have arrived at choosing to vote him into office a second time. And that in this breaking story is where we're going to start, because what's going on in the media right now in Russia will blow your mind. But here's a quick look at understanding how obvious this has been since 2016, and Trump voters, Americans, didn't listen at all. Take a listen to this.
In the summer of 2016, at the Republican National Convention that was preparing to nominate Donald Trump to be the GOP candidate for president, the Republican Party suddenly and inexplicably changed its long-standing policy platform on the issue of Russia and Ukraine. The two countries had been fighting each other in a simmering conflict for the previous 2 years, ever since Russia annexed Crimea in 2014 and began supporting Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. That summer, in 2016, the Republican Party officially renounced support for arming Ukraine in that fight against Russia. One RNC delegate said it was Trump himself who directed that change in the platform. It was such a weird, specific thing. But it was just the beginning. We soon learned that Trump campaign officials were entertaining at least two different proposals to hand over Ukrainian territory to Russia. The Mueller investigation found that Trump campaign chair, who before taking the job with Trump for free, had worked for Ukraine's deposed pro-Russian autocrat, had multiple discussions with a Russian intelligence officer about a so-called Ukraine peace plan. Trump's campaign chair himself admitted the plan was a backdoor means for Russia to control eastern Ukraine. Another so-called peace plan was delivered to the desk of President Trump's national security advisor during his first month in office, hand-delivered by Donald Trump's personal lawyer. Imagine that. It too proposed handing over eastern Ukraine and lifting sanctions on Russia for having invaded Crimea. So you see, if you give Putin everything he wants, voila, you shall have peace. As soon as Trump took office in 2017, his administration actually set about secretly trying to lift sanctions on Russia until Congress found out about it and blocked it. Trump then threatened to veto a bill sanctioning Russia for meddling in the 2016 election. He only grudgingly signed it because Congress passed it by big bipartisan veto-proof margins. Then he eagerly set up a summit in Helsinki with Vladimir Putin, where he stood next to the Russian leader and sided with him over American intelligence agencies on the issue of that very Russian election meddling.
All the politicians knew you're responsible for this breaking story. You won't believe. Listen to the Russian media talk about Trump.
2 days have passed since the Vladimir Putin-Donald Trump telephone call, and judging by today's Russian papers, Moscow is upbeat about relations with the Trump administration. Moskovsky Komsomolets believes that events continue to develop in the right direction, the direction right and beneficial for Russia. This opinion piece in Nezavisima Gazeta explains why. For now, Trump's policies are beneficial for Russia. They are starkly different from those of his predecessor, Joe Biden. Trump is ready to make significant concessions to Russia without demanding anything in return. Russia hasn't moved an inch from its original position on the Ukraine crisis. The writer encourages Russian officials to dial down their traditional anti-American feelings and realize that Trump is good news for Russia. Trump has stopped financing USAID, the globalists' main weapon for destabilizing the internal situation in Russia and neighboring states. In Russia, lots of people have responded by suggesting that this is just a trick, that soon a new anti-Russia structure will be set up. What grounds are there to assume this? None at all, apart from the anti-Americanism in people's heads. The Russian government paper Rossiyskaya Gazeta leads with this: what's good for the ruble is good for the dollar. The US is thinking of cancelling anti-Russian sanctions. Experts interviewed by the paper suggest that those sanctions likely to be removed first are those on the Moscow exchange and Russian banks that have prevented them from making free use of the dollar. What's more, After the telephone conversation of Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, the White House promised Russia enormous economic deals if there will be peace in Ukraine. Even the Russian military paper, Krasnaya Zvezda, Red Star, has a positive message today about the United States, Russia and the US on course to normalize relations. Finally, Izvestia, Russia-US trade could double in 2025. Russia could resume deliveries of fuel and metals to America, while the US could supply Russia with technical equipment and components.
I have been saying this now for over 8 years. When your grandfather, great-grandfather, or great-great-great-grandfather, depending how old you are, gave his life in World War II, he didn't give it so that people could sit at Trump rallies wearing T-shirts that say, "I'd rather be a Russian than a Democrat." I have said this over and over and over again. You can still go buy them. They're still available. And there are hundreds and hundreds of photos of John Q. American citizens sitting with them on their bodies at Trump rallies in 2016 and also in 2020 leading up to 2024. This is not new. And the fact that this country has been led down this road just blows my mind. I don't know what Putin has on Trump, but whatever it is, it's some pretty serious compromise, because he is literally handing the reins and the power of the United States of America to Vladimir Putin in Russia. Stay frosty.